Hey, Rangers, welcome to Super Important Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going over the Soul of Chogokin GX-16 Evangelion Zero prototype figure. This is a companion review to our Unit 1 review we did on Super Important Reviews not too long ago. So if you guys haven't checked out Unit 1's review, definitely recommend it because we went a little bit more hardcore over the figure in that review. And to try to speed up this review a little bit, I'm just going to be glancing over some of the accessories and parts on this figure that are mostly the same as Unit 1, just to kind of save up on some time. And most of you guys I feel that would be really interested in seeing the Unit 0 review. Probably already watched the Unit 1 review, so you don't really need me going over it again. But if you guys haven't seen it and want to know a little bit more about, like, say, the pellet gun or how the shoulder pads work, definitely recommend checking out the Unit 1 review. And this is Rei Ayanami's mech, and personally, I really like this mech. Glad I got it because I really love the color scheme and how it's a very different looking mech between Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3, with a lot of them being more beast-like in appearance, while this one's more Cycloptean humanoid in appearance, which I always thought was really cool. So, without further ado, for the packaging, just like what we see with Unit 1, this packaging is also in Unit 0's color scheme, where it's in this really nice blue hue packaging, where you get a nice image of the figure on the front, with Evangelion 0 prototype, made by Bandai. Top of the packaging, you get to see Unit 0 with her trademark sniper rifle. On the side, you can see the Evangelion with the nerve symbol. Other side, mostly the exact same thing. On the back of the packaging, you just get to see Unit 0 with all of its accessories. Nice shot of it with all three of the figures, which I actually own, which is actually pretty cool. Some stuff I can't understand, and more of the same we've seen on the top. So let's get this bad chick open up out of her cardboard prison. Or I guess this might be considered a dude since it's not really Rei. To the review. Alright, so now that we've Unit 0 open up out of her cardboard prison, first we'll go over the accessories, which, just like with Unit 1, comes with a pair of shoulder pads, which you get, for the first pair, you get the ones with the gimmicks, where this part can open up to reveal the progressive knife, which she comes with the exact same progressive knife that we see in a Unit 0, literally nothing different on this thing. And you insert it into the shoulder pad here, which I think is still a really cool gimmick for this, where you just lift it up, but you don't want to bring it up all the way. You kind of want to raise it right here in this little latch area so that when you bring down the top part, it goes right on the inside of it, so then it closes. Other side of the shoulder pads, pop this part open to reveal the needle launcher, which I think is really cool. Again, just like Unit 1, it's not something where you got to see this mech actually use in the anime, but still really cool that it comes with these accessories. Then it comes with these pair of normal shoulder pads, which is more anime accurate for the figure, but they don't really have any gimmicks going on, so if you don't want to have your Unit 0 displayed with the gimmicks, these are definitely a great alternative, but you can't use any of the accessories that hook on the back on these. How you attach the shoulder pads? You literally, I'm gonna pop this one off just so you guys see it, but you essentially would just bend it in. But swapping them out for these ones, you want to come in at an angle, and these parts are actually magnetized, which I think is really cool that we learned on Unit 1. So that it actually holds it in, but gives a little bit of flexibility too, which is really nice for the articulation. But you just come in at an angle, you'll feel it start magnetizing onto that top section, then you just slide it right on top. Pretty easy to do. Just repeat the process backwards to pop it off. Same with these versions too. Just come in at an angle, good to go. I'm just going to show you guys what Unit 0 looks like with the standard shoulder pads on, but we will definitely show these in the pictures towards the end of the review. But they do look really nice on them. I almost prefer, something I didn't mention on Unit 1, I almost prefer these just standing on the shelf because they do look a lot more closer to the anime, and I think they're just a nice cleaner look for the mech. But then again, I do love me some gimmicks. Then some of the other same accessories that Unit 0 has is she also comes with the pellet rifle, 3 entry plugs, which this one was already removed, which for the entry plug works the exact same way as on Unit 1, where you just lift this back section here up. Try to get the shoulder pads out of the way here. But you just lift up on the back shoulder pad part. This part lifts up. You're going to want to take the entry plug with the red side down, push it into the peg hole down here. You're going to push it down, feel it latch in, and then you push this button on the back here to get the entry plug to eject. But I do recommend you're going to want to keep your finger somewhere close to this, or at least be prepared, because when you push that button, that part does come flying out. So if you don't want to lose your entry plug, recommend just make sure you hold your fingers close to it so you can just kind of grab onto it and pull it out. Like so. Come on. Don't be a pain. There we go. Also has the exact same briefcase that we saw for the pellet gun, which on the back here, you get 2 latches. You're just going to kind of pry these parts open just a little bit to open it up to reveal the inside of the briefcase, which the pellet rifle does sit on the inside of there pretty nicely. You just line it up with the details on the inside. Close the briefcase over top of it. Good to go. And you can also hook the briefcase to the back of the shoulder pads with the gimmicks. Because you'll see here they have the grooves here and are also a little bit thicker in order to get this thing on the back of it. But you just slide it over on top of the grooves. Stays in there pretty nicely, which gives the figure a little bit added bulkiness, but I do think it's really cool that you're able to do this with this figure because it kind of gives the Unit 0 more of a battle-ready appearance, like it is going into combat and it's going in there hard. One of the new accessories though is you actually get this other one too, which I'm not 100% sure what this one was actually for. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's for one of the spears, but this one you're going to want to hook onto the right shoulder pad, with this just sliding right into the same sections that you saw with the briefcase. So again, gives it even more battle ready appearance, which I think is really awesome. Though you are going to have to attach these little black pegs on here, which do come separately, and they come in a same little holster just like the entry plugs do. But the problem is mine came attached because I got these used, and this part does not want to come out, and I'm afraid to break it. So once these are attached onto this section here, it feels like it's more or less permanent. Unit 0 comes with an instruction booklet, which on the front of it looks pretty awesome with it and a lot of nice poses. On the back of it, you just get the Nerve logo with the Unit 0 inside of it. Inside of it, you don't actually get a bio like you get with the Unit 1 from what it appears, but it does give you a list of everything that's supposed to come with, which is really nice. Shows you what it can all do with the accessories. And the final page just shows you a lot more of the figures that are in the line right now. She also comes with her own display stand, which I think is really cool. But just like with the Unit 1, it still feels very, very flimsy. And this is one we actually used for the Unit 1 review. And you also get a separate plate section, which just goes on the front section here. And you just line the plate up to these grooves here. You just line it up, push them in. Now you know which unit this stand is going to be going for. And overall, again, just like I said in that review, I think the stand's really cool, really like the appearance, but I wish they would use more solid plastic on this because for the most part, it's super flimsy, easily breakable, which I do think it looks really cool with the mech still, but the problem is they don't sit in there very well. Because even if I shift this a little bit, Unit 0 is already popping out of the stand. It just doesn't really work fully well as a stand and doesn't even really hold the figure in there anyways. So for the most part, again, looks really cool, but still a fail even with Unit 0. But for the stand, you do get some peg holes here for your entry plugs, for the N2 mine. Also get these slotted sections here, because this unit actually comes with a couple little pegs where you would insert these into the side here, where you can pretty much just set it up however you want. So we're going to set one on that side, this one on the other. And what this does, this actually lets you hold the sniper rifle in and the spears, which we have the sonic glaive. You slide it into there. I'm just going to grab the bottom of the lance because that's just kind of what I have here right now, but you can see what it's supposed to be doing. And then with the sniper rifle, which I'll go over here in just a second, I set that way too freaking low. But you would essentially just slot this into the handle, which I'm freaking failing right now at this. And it would essentially just hold it in. I have that totally wrong though. Hold on, I'll just adjust. Alright, after adjusting, you can see that this is essentially what it's supposed to be doing, is holding the accessories in. But I wish they would have just held on to them tighter. Like, just like with the bazooka, the little ring there, like the bazooka still shifts around. The sniper rifle still has a lot of wiggle room. Even the spears have a lot of wiggle room, which I guess the spears isn't quite as big of a deal because these things are super thin. We'll go over in a second. But I wish the stands they would have used would have held these in a little bit better. So, again, I want to love the stand. I really do. But I just can't bring myself to it. And then Unit 0 comes with a pair of gripping hands, which is more or less the exact same as what we got with Unit 1. So, nothing too much going on different here. Just literally the exact same molded detail. Just a little bit of slight variations in the color, with Unit 1 having a lot of purples, silvers, and the little, I think it was like a yellow nub right there on the trigger finger, while this one's just all silver all the time. And it comes with a pair of grasping hands, which are more or less the exact same as what we got with Unit 1, just like the trigger hands, but just different color schemes to match Unit 0. And then how you swap these out, grab the base of the wrist of the figure, also grab as close to the base of the hand as possible, pull straight out, grab the hand that you want to be swapping out with, and then you just take the ball joint, line it up into the peg hole, and you just going to want to push in straight into the forearm. But for some new weapons, we get the Sonic Glaive, which is more or less the progressive knife just on a giant staff. But the details for it are still pretty nice with this metallic silver paint job here for the blade, and the rest of the staff here just metallic gray plastic. And there is some assembly required, which you're going to have to take the blade here and attach it to the staff here. And you just kind of follow the groove sections until it pops in. It's pretty easy to do. The only thing I worry about is this is very, very thin plastic, which really helps to represent the details that you would expect to see on this. But the problem is, if you have Unit 0 holding onto it, if Unit 0 decides to tank off your shelf, or even just tip over on your shelf, if you have her holding this like double-fisted, I would be a little bit worried with Unit 0 falling on top of this that this might snap. So if you're going to be posing Unit 0 with it, I would just make sure it's somewhere that it isn't going to be tipping over and it can be pretty stationary using it. Just like with the Lance of Longulus, which is probably one of the most key weapons in the entire series. So I'm really glad that Unit 0 comes with this so that I'm actually able to have this thing. Which is just like the glaive where you have to assemble it, but that's just actually on a peg. So this is actually a little bit more terrifying. Because you see how tiny that freaking little peg is? I imagine that thing is pretty easy to snap. And just like the glaive, super thin plastic here, and it even gets thinner as you come down to the base of the spear here. And then this top section here is also still pretty thin plastic. But the detail work on this thing is amazing. But just like the glaive, really afraid to have this actually posing with the figure here, because with it being super thin and with these guys being extremely heavy, prone to tipping over like with Unit 1, I imagine with them tipping over, they could possibly snap this, and with that tiny little peg right there, I can see that being a very big concern. So again, make sure the figure is very stationary, very secure if you're going to be posing it with this weapon. Second to last, we get the classic sniper rifle that you got to see Unit 0 with, which looks really nice. Has a metallic silver here for the barrel, for the scope, with a metallic gray gunmetal plastic for the gun here. Love all the molded details on this weapon. Looks awesome. What's also cool is it comes with this bipod, which you just attach to the front little peg right here. Goes on there pretty easy. Also wants to come off pretty easy. But really helps to give it the full-on sniper look. So if you want to have Unit 0 laying on the ground, aiming the sniper rifle, really awesome that it comes with this bipod to do it with. Or even just set it up on buildings, whatever you really want to just have this thing propped on top of. And overall, really love this accessory for it. It's probably the one I'll be actually posing with Unit 0. And then finally we have the umbilical plug, or the umbilical cable, with the rubber tube that just hooks onto the peg on the bottom, which you just slide it over top. Pretty easy to do. But with this, the peg is really tiny. It's a really tight fit inside of the hole in the rubber tube. So if you're going to be having it going in and out a lot, just be very wary of that, because I imagine the peg can break pretty easily. And just like with Unit 1, make sure not to put this in all the way into the peg hole. You just kind of get it in far enough so that it's going to stay in, so you can use the articulation of the umbilical cable. Because if you put it all the way, you'll probably end up snapping that peg because it's a very tight fit, and the peg's going to definitely give before this section here, because this is made out of die cast, so this is really easy to break. And it also gives you a little bit more posability anyway, so I only like to put it in just a little bit. But still looks really cool, very classic for the EVA, and overall great accessories. Then taking a closer look at Unit 0's details, head sculpt is fantastic on this figure here. Just like with Unit 1, really love all the molded details. The paint job is really exquisite, with the entire figure being primarily metallic blue with some gloss white for the arms, for the tip of the shoulder pads, for the side panels on the head, and also a little bit of accent detail here on the knee pads, which is really cool, and the white really helps to make the metallic blue pop a lot more, which really actually helps with the head sculpt too, because the white actually gives a little bit more of an ear impression, which the only thing that kind of sucks is the white here, the blue's bleeding in just a little bit, so it's not quite as white as, say, on the forearms here, which is something that's a little bit of a bummer. But still looks pretty good overall. Really like the metallic silver for the face. Has a very nice red cycloped eye. Top of the head, you get this nice emerald green section here, which I'm not sure what that's for, because the cockpit isn't in the head. So it's mainly there for what appears to be cosmetic reasons, but still looks pretty cool overall. Just to give you guys a shot of the back of the head and the top section here for the entry plug area. Just like Unit 1, majority of the molded detail is the exact same as what we got with Unit 1, with the body being more or less the same. Same with the leg sections here. It's primarily just a different paint job, with Unit 1 actually being a little bit more vibrant overall with a lot of varying color schemes, with this just having the blue, white, and some metallic silver here and there. Except that the neck portion here, which is in a little bit more of like a red flesh tone color, looks really nice. But the primary difference in the detail work is mainly in like the logos, where you have the Prototype 0 on the shoulder here, with EVA 0 Proto on the forearms here, with the inside of the forearms just being gloss black. But for the chest plate here, which is the major difference between Unit 1, you'll see here it doesn't have like the giant riveted sections and that extra metallic plate sticking out in the front section, where it's just one pretty much solid piece of metal right here. But it looks really great overall. If it seems like I'm going over the details pretty quick on this figure, it's, again, mostly like Unit 1, which we already did a review for. So if you guys haven't checked out the Unit 1 review, I definitely recommend going to look at it. And the articulation is pretty much the same as Unit 1 as well, but we'll go over it here because the head actually is a little bit more posable than what we've seen with Unit 1, where it has a wide range of motion where the head can look very far up, really good to the side. But the neck is also articulated, so you get a nice little forward and back motion too, so you get that nice motion. For the shoulders, they can move a little bit forward, a little bit back, rotate all the way around. Also get a little bit of play on the inside of the ball joint here as well. At the forearms, can rotate all the way around on a double joint, so they can move that far forward, straighten out about that far. Hands can rotate all the way around. Also have a little bit of play forward and back. At the waist, you get a articulated joint right here and at the top of the waist. So this is a decent side-to-side motion and a really good wiggle to it as well. And can also move about that far forward, that far back. At the legs, can move outwards about that far, inwards about that far. Pretty good forward kick, pretty decent backward kick as well. And also has a little bit of a swivel at the top part of the thigh. Knees can bend in about that far, straighten about that far. Don't rotate at all on the knee section here. And for the feet, can pivot side to side, can also shimmy a little bit side to side, but on this figure it's a little bit tight. Can move down about that far, straighten up about that far, and the toes are also articulated as well. And for a quick comparison, here we have the Soul of Chogokin Unit 0 compared next to Unit 2 and Unit 1. Here it is, compared next to the Soul of Chogokin Mega Deuce from Big O and the Robot Damashi / Robot Spirits Shining Gundam from G Gundam. And here we have the Unit 0 compared next to some SH Monsters figures with the Spitfire 2014 Godzilla and the figure you guys have been requesting for a long time for me to do a review. Finally got one for my birthday, so I'm going to be doing, hopefully sometime in the near future, the 2004 Gigan from Final Wars. And finally we have Unit 0 compared next to my original Kyoto Unit 0. Which, again, been wanting to do a review for the original Kyotos, but it's just been kind of a pain about trying to get these done. But, unlike the Unit 1, which in that review I kind of stated I kind of like them both equally, well in this version I actually prefer the Soul of Chogokin way much over than my original one. Because I like all the gimmicks, I like all the accessories are really cool with it, and even though some of them are slightly fragile, like the Spirit Longulus and stuff, it actually came with more accessories. While my original one came with like the sniper rifle and a couple extra weapons and the M2 mine, that was pretty much about it. And then the other problem I have with this thing, my Kyoto version actually has a lot of bleeding problems, where you can see here, pretty much the blue is showing through all the white here on the side of the helmet here. Looks pretty atrocious overall. The arms have always had like this weird little blue tint to them, which I didn't really mind personally, but having these little sections right here look pretty unsightly. Even here on the kneecaps too, the blues really bled into those things as well. So for the most part, the paint quality on this guy hasn't really held up nearly as well as, say, the Soul of Chogokin version, which still looks freaking fantastic, even though it still has a little bit of that blue problem right there. But it's definitely not nearly as bad as my Kyoto version here. So if I had to choose one for you guys to actually try to get a hold of between these two figures, I would actually recommend picking up this one, while the Unit 1 was just more of a toss-up. But just show you guys a little bit of a closer look at the details of the Kyoto version real quick. I still really like this version overall in terms of the sculpt. I think the sculpt looks actually really nice on it. Like if this figure's just standing on a shelf, it does the job very nicely. And it has a little bit more articulation than the Unit 1 did, where it actually has an elbow bend, but it's just rotates. That's really all you get there. So it gets some weird, awkward arm positions. Like if you want them down, that's how this one's gonna look. So it's not very pretty. So it's pretty much only really meant to be bending, but you can straighten it out if you want. And then it has like bend at the knees, a little bit of a foot pivot at the bottom, some rotation here at the thighs, has a waist swivel, which I always thought was weird being at the cross section here, so whenever you're trying to get to stand up straight, it looks like it's trying to lean back super far. Then rotation at the upper part of the bicep. Hands can rotate. Shoulders can also rotate. Also, it was cool that these always had like a really crazy inward pivot too. And the neck can swivel a little bit side to side. And the head can also rotate forward and back. So, again, really cool for, usually I think this figure goes for about 30 bucks. It's still not bad, and it comes with a crap ton of accessories, which this guy generally runs you about 80 to 100, I want to say. So, price-wise, this guy seems a little bit more appealing, but in terms of detail and what it comes with, even though some of the stuff's kind of scary, still really like this one overall. So overall, the Soul of Chogokin Unit 0, I actually like this figure a little bit more than Unit 1 personally, which is saying something because Unit 0 is actually my least favorite out of the Evangelions, which least favorite being, I still like it, but just not as much as every other unit. So when I say that this figure actually seems a little bit more worth it than the Unit 1, I take a little bit more heart because the accessories are a little bit cooler with this figure, and the stance still sucks, but it sucked with Unit 1 too, so it's whatever. So if you guys are looking for a diecast Evangelion figure and not super picky on the Evangelion that you want, then I'd actually recommend you guys picking up Unit 0. But what do you guys think? Do you guys own the Soul of Chogokin Unit 0? What's your favorite mecha anime, or is Titans just more your thing? Please let us know in the comments. A little closer picture of this guy on Facebook. You want to click the link in the description below. Help us defeat those kaijus by hitting that like button. Subscribe, become a ranger today, and see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.